Cool features of the 6.7 liter Powerstroke turbo diesel engine found under the hood of the 2020 Super Duty. In this particular case, it is a 2020 F350 single rear wheel. And we're going to take a look at the cool features under the hood. So you have a 6.7 liter Powerstroke turbo diesel V8 with 475 horsepower and 1,050 foot-pounds of torque. And I got my buddy Powerstroke Tech Talk.
What's up, guys?
And he's going to help us talk about some of the cool features under the hood. He works on these trucks every day. We just so happened to be at a 4th of July party, and one of my family members has a brand new 6.7 liter Powerstroke with all the updates. So we figured, why not talk about this truck and some of the updates under the hood. Now, number one, I want to start with the coolest part of the engine, in my opinion, and that is the reversed induction, the reverse of the intake and the exhaust. The exhaust actually comes up the middle of the engine and feeds the turbos through the middle of the engine, and the intake actually comes in through the sides, which is reversed from what you typically see on the engine, where the exhaust manifolds are down on the sides and the intake is in the middle. This is said to be more thermally efficient and helps the engine make more power than a lot of the competitors. A-Rod, what would you like to mention under the hood?
Well, some of the first things that I noticed is we have a different CCV box compared to our other models. Looks a little different. Fasteners are different. Looks like we got a few more of them there.
What does CCV stand for?
The closed crankcase ventilation system.
Oh, that's important.
It's like the PCV system for the diesel.
Oh, wow.
Definitely a big emissions component on this. Another big thing here, remember on our previous ones, our intakes were flopped. Our lower intake was aluminum, and now our upper is aluminum. And our lower is plastic, and you remember our upper was plastic. You can tell even too here, this void of space, you can tell there's more room. If you guys check out my 19 Super Duty turbo removal video, you can check it out how close the clearance was for the intake manifold there. So that's definitely something that's different. Also, along with these bolts down here in the manifold, this EGR pipe, the fasteners went from an 8 milli bolt to a 10 milli bolt. A little more girth and material of fastener to use into a hole that is made of, going to be having two different pieces of metal, because the bolt's going to be non-ferrous and the exhaust manifold's going to be cast iron. So,
and you were telling me that was a service issue where a lot of times those would break because they were smaller diameter bolts, and they were prone to breaking after so many heat cycles and dissimilar metals seizing up inside of the head, I believe it goes into, or
no, into the exhaust manifold.
Oh, okay, it goes into the exhaust manifold. Oh, okay, so it's going into iron.
Yeah, cast iron.
Which is interesting point. Now that we're on the topic of iron, a lot of you already probably know that this engine is made of compacted graphite. I believe that's the only diesel engine in the class that has a compacted graphite engine. Correct me if I'm wrong, but that is a really strong material that you find in industrial applications, and it's here on the 6.7 liter Powerstroke turbo diesel.
Carbon. It's tough.
Tough stuff. Another thing that I noticed right away looking under the hood is the change in the intake here. Going with the air filter, you get a lot straighter shot to the filter. You can actually see the filter down in there. But now the intake is a straight shot. Instead of the battery being here, the air having to go under the battery tray, up and around, you get a straight shot where the air just goes straight down to the intake. Instead of being routed, the battery's moved back where it used to be up here. Also, you have a funnel design. This has been around since 2017, where the air is kind of prevented from going into the engine.
It's like channeled right. It's like channeled right in this little.
And they actually went through the trouble of making scoops here that actually feed air straight up and gets cool, dense air to the engine. Some more cool features under the hood would be the addition of dual alternators on this particular model. There's 2 levels to the dual alternator. There's a extreme duty, which is 397 amp alternator setup, which gives you 2 high output alternators. We were also saying that one of these alternators might actually be higher rated than the other, because how do you divide that number by 2? But we don't know exactly for sure which one's higher, if they're the same. But one
like
of these
primary and secondary or something.
Right, maybe there's some kind of a primary, secondary. Now there is a dual alternator option that has less power than this, but this is the highest level dual alternator that you can get from the factory. And it's pretty impressive to have 397 amps of power. You can power so much equipment with that. You could power some pretty big inverters, some pretty big electrical components, freezers, whatever, ambulance, things like that with this setup. Another thing is the oil. This truck can run 10W30 or a 5W40 full synthetic. My recommendations, if you follow the channel, you already know that I'm going to recommend the full synthetic 5W40, but if you want, you can also run a 10W30, which now with that 10W30, would that be a blend synthetic diesel oil? What would that be?
No, it would just be a 100% 10W30 diesel motor oil, non-synthetic.
But you wouldn't go out and get standard motor oil 10W30. That would not be adequate. It would be something rated for diesel, preferably a Motorcraft oil.
Absolutely. Motorcraft 100%.
You know you got the right stuff.
One other thing before Sean continues is, before I forget, the cooling systems. Remember how we had the orange coolant? We have now moved over to the Motorcraft yellow coolant. Kind of almost looks iridescent green when you look at it, but it's definitely yellow. There's 2 versions that you can get, 100% full concentrated, and then you can get a diluted version, which is obviously what I choose to use. If you do get the concentrated, make sure you get some distilled water so you can do the correct 50-50 mix.
If you get it pre-diluted, you don't have to worry about the mixing and getting the distilled water. But with that, this reservoir, isn't that specific to the water cooled, what would you call that? The water cooled
charge air cooling system.
So you have 2 reservoirs here. This is one reservoir,
and then
there's a primary reservoir. So that one cools the engine, and this one cools the
trans cooler, the fuel cooler, the intercooler, and that's pretty much it.
So there's essentially 2 cooling systems on the engine.
Yeah.
That is pretty
primary
cool.
And secondary.
So is there 2 water pumps as well, or?
Yep.
Wow. So they both on the engine block?
Yes, sir.
That is very interesting.
Both belt driven.
Now, as far as the engine itself, it is a 4-valve per cylinder engine, but it has a pushrod design. So it's not an overhead cam, but it has 4 valves per cylinder. That's pretty interesting, pretty unique to this engine. Pushrod design.
We also have a we went from different style pistons to steel piston configuration, and actually the connecting rods are a little longer because the piston is shorter in size, so it can accompany the longer connecting rod, which in design is going to make, you know, our more power, more torque, smaller parts, spin it up faster.
Right. So in my research that I've done on the pistons, it suggests that the steel piston is slightly heavier than the previous aluminum piston, but it is a slightly smaller piston, which gives it a little bit less surface area and makes it more efficient in that sense. And while it is a little bit heavier than the outgoing aluminum piston, it's a lot stronger. So for the tuners who want to crank the power way up, you know that from the factory, you have the strongest pistons pretty much available, because they're steel pistons versus the aluminum pistons. So for longevity and for aftermarket tuning, the piston design, the connecting rod design have been improved for 2020, and it's pretty amazing stuff that Ford went through the trouble of and the expense of adding a steel piston. That's pretty next level stuff. Very impressive.
Best truck on the road, guys. 6.7 Ford Super Duty. Go get you one.
I really feel like the 6.7 is just killing the competition right now as far as diesels are concerned. I feel like the Ford F-Series, the F-250s are. I know the GM is new. It's all new.
Ugly.
But
Ugly.
the Ford's coming. The Ford's coming for it. I mean, I still like this Super Duty design over the current GM and Dodge options, but they're going to really have a lot of new technology as well. As you see, the new F-150 is on its way, and it's only a matter of time before that technology reaches the Super Duty platform. But not to go too far afield and stay pinned on this engine, I'm trying to think of everything was the fuel system. That's correct. What is it?
We got 36,000 psi now, and we have eight injection cycles per injection event, if you want to call it. So that's, I mean, mind-blowing how fast all that is.
So from up here on top of the engine, can we see anything fuel related? I know there's a fuel filter.
Yeah, fuel filter, the return. You guys can definitely see that looks different. These two are pretty much the same, but it seems like the one thing that they change has been the fuel return. This has been changed, I would say, 1, 2, maybe this is the third time this has been changed. So that's definitely different. I know this is different. The CAC tube looks completely different. Still got the clip 2 detent clip to take the CAC tube off the turbo style. Don't have the transmission dipstick tube anymore. We're only running just the oil. This is our new 10R 140 trans, coupled to the 2020 for the first time, in the Super Duty rather. I know the guy, what did he say he was getting for fuel economy? Like 16.6 or 16.8 or something?
Something like that.
So that's just driving around the city. I think he said he was getting closer to 20 when he was on the freeway, so that's not too bad.
That's impressive.
That's not too bad. Yeah, so far so good. I think this is going to be a fun candidate to work on. I can't really see anything abnormal or a pain in the butt so far that's going to require.
But you were saying also that this whole design here, this stuff's new and it looks a lot cleaner, a lot less busy, and that's definitely something that's welcome when you're working on a truck.
Absolutely.
But anyway, guys, I think we covered everything. In closing, I want to point out, I just want to go over the specs again. 475 horsepower and 1,050 foot-pounds of torque. That's insane. He let us drive it around the neighborhood. We opened it up, and it just feels like the power to the ground. You could just, something this big and heavy, it's amazing that it can move like this, and you could just feel the raw power coming to the wheels. What did you think about driving it?
475 foot-pounds at 2,800 RPM.
Wow.
And 1050 foot-pounds of torque at 1,800 RPM.
That's insane.
I didn't really want to do a burnout in this guy's truck, but I can only imagine if we were doing a burnout, it would be pretty America and patriotic. But we chose not to, so maybe we'll ask him and we'll do a video on it, because I'm sure people would love to see a single real world 2020 6.7 smoky burnout. Let us know in the comment section. We'll ask them.
But that's it, guys, for the video. Comment below, tell me what you think. If there's anything cool that we missed under the hood of the 6.7 liter Powerstroke turbo diesel, leave it in the comment section.
Check out my channel.
Check out Powerstroke Tech Talk. I'll link his channel in the comment section and in the description. And if you like 3.5 liter EcoBoost content, we have a video very similar to this about this engine, the 2018 second gen 3.5 liter EcoBoost. We also have a very similar video with the 2019 second gen 2.7 liter EcoBoost. And also on the channel, we have video just like this of our 2019 Super Duty with our 6.2 liter gas V8 engine. So thank you for watching. Comment below, share the video, and hope to hear from you soon.
Big channel news coming, guys. See you Friday.
See you guys. Powerstroke Tech Talk uploads every Friday. See you guys in the next video, and thank you for watching.